Hello, and welcome to our poster presentation titled Traditional Medicine on Manitoulin Island, Unearthing Insights from Historical Interviews in Jesuit Diaries between the 18 and 1900s. My name is Callie Ritchie, and I completed this project with Claire PoulinC under the supervision of Dr. Daryl Manitowabi and Dr. Marion Marr. The research study received financial support from the Canadian Institute for Health Research Grant number 393353.
Centered on exploring the Indigenous perspective of the intricate relationship between Manitoulin, the Anishinaabe concept of living a good life, and traditional ways of knowing and being with a specific focus on the Anishinaabe people's connection with the land, this research project undertook a historical exploration of traditional medicine on Manitoulin Island from the mid-1800s to late 1900s by analyzing historical interviews with a main focus on historical Jesuit diaries. The primary research objective is to illuminate this relationship through the perspective of the Jesuit and narrative accounts of the Anishinaabe, specifically in their discussion of land-based traditions and the historical use of traditional medicine on Manitoulin Island. Our research team recognizes traditional knowledge as being a healing component from the intergenerational trauma caused by forced relocation and assimilation, residential schools, the 60s scoop, among other historical and ongoing events.
This research strives to unravel the profound connection between Manitoulin and the Anishinaabe people's relationship with the land. The specific research objectives for this project are to explore the connection between Manitoulin and people's relationship with the land through the perspective of Indigenous knowledge holders, or those with knowledge of land-based traditions in Wikwemikong unceded territory.
A comprehensive review of historical interviews with Indigenous peoples found at the University of Regina Canadian Plains Research Centre, Library Archives Canada, and Algoma University was conducted between the years of 18 to 1900. Print sources focused on the Wikwemikong Diararium, a 3-book set spanning the years of 1844 to 1873. Qualitative analysis resulted in the creation of inductive codes for land-based healing practices. Iterative review of codes and the use of peer review amongst the presenters allowed for a more comprehensive understanding of the available literature.
Based on the codes created from the qualitative analysis of the research materials, we organized the codes into 6 main themes. These themes are depicted on the green graphic in the results section of the poster. These themes are number 1, ceremony, number 2, sacred items, number 3, spirituality, number 4, culture and traditional practices, number 5, colonialism, and number 6, mental health, suicide, and substance use. The codes within each theme can be found below Figure 1.
Figure 2 depicts the geographic location where the material from today's presentation were originally created. Last summer, in August of 2023, both Callie and I were invited to Wikwemikong unceded territory by band members and our faculty supervisors, where we had the absolute privilege to visit historical and contemporary locations on and around the island to better understand our research materials. While on this research trip, Callie took the photograph seen in Figure 3. That 1836 treaty is very important to the land of Manitoulin Island and the peoples who call the island home. Since time immemorial, Manitoulin Island has been home to the Odawa, Anishinaabe, and Potawatomi peoples. Manitoulin Island is held as a spiritual place for many, and respecting community and individual values was paramount throughout the research process.
In conclusion, the goal of this research project was to explore the relationship between Manitoulin, the Anishinaabe concept of living a good life, and the traditional ways of knowing and being, with a specific focus on the connection with land or land-based practices. The themes identified illustrate that land and land-based practices are essential to Indigenous health and well-being. For example, many of the ceremonies are performed on the land with land-based resources, sacred items come from animals on the land, medicines are collected from the land, and spirituality is rooted in the creation story of how the land came to be. Colonialism has also resulted in the loss of land and land-based practices essential to Indigenous well-being. However, land-based practices are utilized for healing from physical and mental health concerns. The Jesuit diaries were chosen as a resource because they are only one of a few historical records from this time period. However, it is important to recognize that Indigenous peoples traditionally held stories, ceremonies, and ways of life in oral tradition and histories as opposed to written documents. This is where the balance of historical interviews allows us to understand the oral histories from elders and knowledge keepers who are able to consent to participation in the research. Limitations from the study include factors such as self-selection of who is able and willing to share personal stories in an interview format for research purposes.
Before we end our talk today, Callie and I would like to thank Drs. Marr and Manitowabi for leading the research project. Furthermore, this project would not have been possible without the generous support from Elder Henry Pitawanakwat and many others on Manitoulin Island.